All right, buckle up, because you're in for a wild ride. This is the story of the most ridiculous, infuriating, and ultimately satisfying situation I've ever been through. I'm writing this out because, frankly, I need to vent, but also because the ending was so sweet I just have to share it. My name is Lauren Mitchell, and I live in a relatively upscale but painfully cookie-cutter suburban neighborhood called Crestview Pines. I've been here for 5 years, ever since I got promoted to a senior software engineer position at my tech company. Truthfully, I love my home. It's got a decent yard, a short commute to work, and, most importantly, a beautiful in-ground pool in the backyard. That pool is my sanctuary, my escape from the grind, and the one place I can truly relax. Last Saturday started off like the perfect summer day. The sun was blazing, birds chirped away, and I decided to treat myself to a solo swim. I threw on my favorite polka dot swimsuit, poured a chilled glass of iced tea, and headed out back. For a couple of blissful hours, I floated under the sun, listened to music, and let the stress of the week melt away. As the sun dipped lower and the breeze picked up, I decided to call it a day. I swam one last lap, got out, and began the routine of covering the pool. It's a bit of a process pulling out the solar cover, aligning it just right, and weighing it down with water tubes. Not difficult, but it takes focus. About halfway through, I noticed someone watching me. At the edge of my property, just across the low decorative fence, stood an older woman. She had that perfectly styled silver bob and a tight-lipped expression that instantly told me who she was. Patricia Evans, the president of our HOA and the self-proclaimed overseer of Crestview Pines. I gave her a polite nod and a small wave. "Good afternoon, Patricia," I called out, hoping she'd wave back and move on. No such luck. She didn't move an inch, her gaze cold and scrutinizing. "Lauren, isn't it?" she said, her voice dripping with syrupy disapproval. "Yes, Patricia. Can I help you with something?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "I just wanted to finish and get inside. I was just wondering why you're closing the pool so early. It's barely evening." I suppressed a sigh. I'm done for the day, and I prefer to cover it in the evening. Keeps it clean and retains heat. Her eyes scanned my backyard like she was searching for something to complain about. "It just seems like such a shame. It's a lovely pool. Adds so much to the neighborhood's aesthetic." Neighborhood aesthetic. Patricia might as well have had it tattooed on her forehead. "I appreciate that, but it's my pool. I'll cover it when I choose," I replied, steel finally entering my voice. Her face tightened. "Well, I hope you're not planning on keeping it covered all the time. There are rules about appearances, you know." That's when I knew this wasn't about the pool. It was about me. I wasn't what Crestview Pines was used to, and Patricia Evans wasn't going to let it go. That night, just as I settled in with a movie, there was a knock on my door. I almost didn't answer, but something told me ignoring it would only make things worse. I opened the door to find Patricia standing there, flanked by 2 police officers. "Good evening, Lauren," she said, sickly sweet. "We have a bit of a situation." One officer spoke up. "Ma'am, we received a call about suspicious activity." Miss Evans was concerned. "Suspicious activity?" I repeated. "Because I covered my pool and stayed inside my home?" Patricia shrugged, feigning concern. "It just seemed unusual." The officers shifted uncomfortably. "We just need to ask a few questions, ma'am," one said. I stayed calm. I swam. I covered the pool. I went inside to relax. "That's it." They nodded. One turned to Patricia. "Miss Evans, do you have any evidence of this suspicious activity?" Patricia hesitated. "Well, no. Just a feeling." "A feeling?" the officer repeated flatly. "Miss Evans, calling 911 based on a feeling is not appropriate. It diverts resources from real emergencies." Patricia looked like she might explode, but the officers weren't finished. "As part of our routine," said Officer Reynolds, "we need to run a background check on all parties." My stomach clenched. I had nothing to hide, but it still felt invasive. Then I looked at Patricia. She had gone pale. "It's standard, ma'am," he said firmly. They took our IDs and headed back to their car. The silence was thick. Patricia fidgeted. Officer Kim, the younger officer, stayed by me and offered a quiet apology. "We get a lot of these kinds of calls here," she admitted. "Petty, personal." Then she asked, "Are you familiar with the HOA rules on pool coverings?" "I've read them," I said. "I think I'm in compliance." "It might be worth checking again," she said. "And maybe take a look at Article 6, Section 4. Something about abuse of authority. The officers returned. Officer Reynolds called Patricia aside. I watched from the porch as her voice climbed and her gestures grew wild. Whatever they found wasn't good. Kim turned to me. Miss Mitchell, things might start to change around here. She explained that Patricia had a documented history of abuse, selectively enforcing rules, harassing residents, even using HOA funds for personal expenses. This call had been the final straw. Misusing emergency services to target a neighbor was a serious offense. A week later, a special HOA meeting was held. The community room was packed. I brought my documentation. Other neighbors shared stories of harassment, fines for non-existent violations, threats of foreclosure. Patricia denied everything, claimed she was misunderstood, but the stories were too many, the evidence too solid. The board voted to remove her immediately and ban her from holding any HOA position again. But it didn't stop there. The police investigation uncovered misappropriation of community funds. Patricia Evans was arrested and charged with fraud, theft, and abuse of power. At her trial, many of us testified. She was convicted on all counts and sentenced to several years in prison. Her downfall marked a turning point. The new HOA leadership rewrote ambiguous rules, ensured transparency, and focused on inclusion. We started having real community events, diverse, open, welcoming. Crestview Pines transformed. Neighbors became friends. Cultures were shared. Voices once silenced now led the way. I even helped start a resident advocacy group. We empowered each other. One afternoon, months later, I floated in my pool under the sun. Kids played in the park across the street. Peace had returned. More importantly, so had justice. Patricia tried to isolate me. Instead, she united the neighborhood. And in the end, the greatest victory wasn't her downfall, it was the rise of a better, fairer, stronger community. I finally felt like I belonged. I was home.